All right, let's dive right in. We're going to tackle a really fascinating and, frankly, confusing question that sits right at the heart of the modern American economy. You've probably seen this, or maybe you've even felt it yourself. People who have a good income, a solid education, and real opportunities, but they're still struggling with financial stress. And this isn't really about just getting unlucky or not working hard enough. Well, it turns out the answer often lies inside our own heads. Research in behavioral economics points to these predictable glitches in our thinking, cognitive biases that get cranked up to 11 by the world we live in today. And these biases can steer even the smartest people off course. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll lay out this paradox. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of our brain's biases. After that, we'll see how our environment acts like an amplifier. And finally, we'll talk about why this means we should be looking at the system, not just ourselves. Okay, let's get into it. We're going to look at 3 really powerful mental shortcuts, kind of like hidden scripts that are running in the background and shaping our financial decisions, whether we know it or not. First up, we have something called present bias. You might also hear it called hyperbolic discounting. Basically, it means our brain is hardwired to want a small reward right now way more than it wants a much bigger reward later. It's like your brain sees a cookie today as way, way better than a whole cake next month. And you see this bias pop up everywhere in the American economy. It's why we might overconsume when we're young, maybe take on a ton of student loan debt without a super clear plan to pay it back. It's that little voice in your head that says, just put it on the credit card, prioritizing that instant gratification over, say, saving for retirement. And this table, wow, it just lays out the brutal math of how these small choices add up. The plan is always steady growth, right? But the reality, when present bias takes the wheel, often looks a lot more like stagnation or even going backward into debt. That small gap after 5 years becomes a massive, massive chasm after 20. So that pull towards the now is already a huge factor. But it gets even more complicated when you add our next mental trap, loss aversion. The research on this is pretty clear. We feel the sting of a loss about twice as much as we feel the joy of an equal gain. Put it this way, losing $100 just plain hurts more than finding $100 feels good. And in the world of finance, this leads to some really strange behavior. There's this thing called the disposition effect. It's where we hold on to a losing stock for way too long, just hoping it'll get back to what we paid for it. We can't stand to accept the loss. On the flip side, we'll often sell our winning stocks way too early, just to lock in that good feeling of a small win. The long-term damage from this is pretty stark. A rational strategy keeps the portfolio balanced for growth, but one driven by loss aversion gets dragged down by all its worst performers. Over decades, you're not just missing opportunities, you're actively holding back your own wealth creation. Okay, and for our final bias, we have one that has been put on steroids by our modern digital world, relative deprivation. This one isn't about what you actually have, it's all about how what you have stacks up against what you see other people have. I mean, think about it. Social media makes this upward social comparison a constant part of our lives. We're swimming in a sea of perfectly curated images of success and wealth. It's no wonder it can make us feel like we're falling behind, and that feeling can drive us to spend more and more just to keep up. That's lifestyle inflation in a nutshell. And you can see the 2 very different roads this leads to. When your finances are based on your own goals, you build towards freedom. But when they're driven by keeping up with somebody else's highlight reel, well, that often leads to high spending, a lot of debt, and a constant feeling of financial stress no matter how much money you're actually making. Now, here's the thing. These biases, they're just part of being human. They're hardwired into us. But they don't exist in a bubble. The modern financial world we live in acts as a massive amplifier, and in many ways, it's almost perfectly designed to push all these buttons. To really get this, it helps to understand that psychologists talk about our brains having 2 modes of thinking. You've got System 1, that's the fast, automatic, emotional gut reaction part of your brain, and then you've got System 2, that's your slow, careful, analytical mind. So, the modern American financial world, it has become an absolute expert at talking directly to our impulsive System 1. Just think about how easy it is to get credit. These buy now, pay later options on everything, one-click ordering, algorithm-driven ads that follow you everywhere. The whole system is built to be frictionless, to let you act on impulse before your rational System 2 even has a chance to wake up. And this quote from Investopedia really hits the nail on the head. This is not an accident. The system is built to take advantage of our psychology. Credit card rewards are a perfect example. We don't feel the pain of spending points the same way we feel the pain of spending actual cash, which of course makes us spend more. It's a direct play on our built-in biases. So after all of this, what's the big takeaway? How should we think about these pieces when we put them all together? The most crucial thing to understand is this. These financial struggles often aren't just a series of random personal failures. They're not a sign of a moral failing or a lack of discipline. More often than not, they are the predictable result of a mismatch between our ancient brain wiring and our very, very modern financial world. And that leaves us with one last really big thought. If the environment we live in is set up in a way that predictably causes capable, intelligent people to make these kinds of errors, then what does that say about the environment itself? Really understanding these hidden mechanisms is the first step toward analyzing the very systems that shape all of our financial lives.